words there in that. Jeremiah doesn't hold anything back, does he? That tremendous image of the two different plants. One, and like if you just go out west, you can see that parched wilderness. You can imagine a poor little tree trying to survive out there sometimes. And compared to that one by the stream. So just a few words of reflection. So I wasn't sure what photo to put up. I thought it has to be some very contrasting things. So that's what you've got. The way Jesus talks in today's passage, and often in other places as well, is prophetic, the way of the prophets. Prophets are renowned for their insight, seeing things differently, seeing things from the perspective of the people's covenant with God. The language they used was generally poetic, like poetry. So just think of your favourite poets today. Rich in imagery, powerful use of language, hitting home in very succinct ways about foundational aspects of life and of being human. The prophets in the Bible usually have a mix of judgment and hope. And we can see Jesus talking like this today as well, with a hopeful word to some and a judgmental word to others. Blessings and woes, it's usually translated as. The judgment can often simply be paying close attention to what is happening now and seeing where those choices that people make, the consequences of where those choices are heading. Injustice, dehumanisation and destruction, the way of death. So for those who have a vested interest in having things stay the same, you can imagine that sort of message is not received well. From their perspective, those in control of our world, it seems that the world they know and trusted and are familiar with is vanishing before their eyes with these powerful words that the prophets speak. When the prophets turned to hope and talked of hope, they talked about the new thing. Alex gave us a little quote from another part of it about the new thing, the new coming and the old going, saying it's very similar to what many of the prophets did at different times. The new world that is coming. Again, this could sound great for those suffering in the present world, but for those who were privileged in the current world, then the new world coming is seen as a threat. And so the typical path of the prophet is to be persecuted, to be excluded, and sometimes to be killed. But the rich poetic nature of the language they used meant it addressed people at a deep human level. And so their words, even if the prophet themselves were killed or chucked out or persecuted, the words themselves remain potent in any time. And that's why we still can read those prophets today and still go, well, that fits now. Their words keep rising up to annoy those in power. So Jesus well and truly stands in this tradition of the prophets. And he's the one we profess to follow. Watch out. Blessings for some, woe to others. No wonder he was crucified. And when you think of following that man in that tradition, you think, well, that's something about the cost of discipleship, making a bit more sense. It's a mistake, though, to see the woes as curses. The Greek word used has more the connotation of an exclamation of grief, something akin to alas. So this is Jesus grieving over those who will make choices which will lead them away from the kingdom. One of our problems with receiving this word today is that most of us are steeped in the systems that lead to death. Most of us are privileged in these systems today. When we are privileged, it's very difficult to see our own privilege. It's part of the norm of our life. It's part of all the messages we get constantly from the day we're born. We're brought up with all these sort of underlying messages of how things are and what systems are in place and how we explain the world and how things work and how we should relate to each other. For example, it's hard to talk about the fact that our society has chosen a path of death in which we've reduced everything to a commodity. We believe there are technical solutions to everything. So it doesn't matter whether you talk about the over-reliance on technology or the mad pursuit of commodity goods at the expense of almost everything. Or whether you talk about our passion for violence, now expressed as war policies and manifest in many forms of violence upon each other. All of those things are interrelated. And none of us, or very few of us, really want to have that exposed as an inadequate and dehumanising way to live, because we're so tangled up in the whole thing. I think if one is grounded in the truth of the gospel as a Christian, that's what we do need to talk about. For us today, it means talking about inequality. It means talking about our environment getting trashed for profit. It means talking about those who are dehumanised at the expense of those in power, such as asylum seekers and refugees and immigrants and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Oscar Romero preached on this passage. He said, "The world says, 'Blessed are the rich. You are worth as much as you have.' But Christ says, wrong. Blessed are the poor, because they do not put their trust in what is so temporary. Blessed are the poor, for they know their riches are in the one who, being rich, made himself poor, in order to enrich us with his poverty," teaching us the Christian's true wisdom. It's very much also like those two images in Jeremiah about the two different plants, one in the really parched, dry wilderness and one by the stream of living water. The Greek word for poor implies that they are not merely low on funds, but miserable, oppressed and humiliated. So the miserable and the oppressed and the humiliated are blessed by Jesus, yes. Remember, the Beatitudes aren't commandments. Jesus looks on the poor, the humiliated, those ground into the pavement with no hope, and he blesses them. He sees them. He loves them. He makes outlandish promises to them. In the kingdom, the new world that is here now in Jesus, and at the same time still to come in its fullness, the miserable, the oppressed and the humiliated will have a place of honour. I'm going to finish with the translation in the Message on part of this passage. Now, sometimes, of course, you can take or leave the Message and how it puts things. But today I found it quite, well, it was just nice to hear a different angle on something that's familiar to us. You're blessed when you've lost it all. God's kingdom is there for the finding. You're blessed when you're ravenously hungry. Then you're ready for the messianic meal. You're blessed when the tears flow freely. Joy comes with the morning. Count yourself blessed every time someone cuts you down or throws you out. Every time someone smears or blackens your name to discredit me. What it means is that the truth is too close for comfort and that person is uncomfortable. You can be glad when that happens. Skip like a lamb, if you like. For even though they don't like it, I do. And all heaven applauds. And know that you are in good company. My preachers and witnesses have always been treated like this. But it's trouble ahead if you think you have it made. What you have is all that you will ever get. And it's trouble ahead if you're satisfied with yourself. Yourself will not satisfy you for long. And it's trouble ahead if you think life's all fun and games. There's suffering to be met, and you're going to meet it. There's trouble ahead when you live only for the approval of others, saying what flatters them, doing what indulges them. Popularity contests are truth contests. Are not truth contests. Look how many scoundrel preachers were approved by your ancestors. Your task is to be true, not popular. This is the word of the Lord.